Xiao Yan, in his quest to rescue Elder Pill, sought the aid of the Dou Zun of Wind, risking life as he ventured alone into the Four Pavilions Assembly. To his surprise, he reunited with his dear friend Lin Yan after years apart, only to find him under attack by Wang Chen of the Yellow Spring Pavilion. In a critical moment, Xiao Yan intervened to save him. Continuing from previous episode, upon witnessing Elder Pill's dire situation upon breaking through to the Dou Zun level, Xiao Yan resolved to seek the assistance of the Dou Zun of Wind at the Four Pavilions Assembly. However, he first needed to deal with the demonic spot that had plagued him for years. The seal laid by Little Fairy Doctor years ago had gradually weakened over time due to the relentless erosion of the demonic spot. To rid himself of it, Xiao Yan had two options: seek aid from a Dou Zun level expert or find one more heavenly flame to refine it. Unfortunately, he didn't meet either condition. Yet, this breakthrough gave him hope. The demonic spot seemed less invincible than before. Though challenging to refine with his current strength, he decided to gradually do so. With determination, Xiao Yan began using the crystal lotus heart fire to refine the demonic spot. Observing the inky black lines, a chill ran down his spine. Had he not reached the Dou Zun level, these demonic tendrils could have killed him. But thankfully, he was no longer the inexperienced Dou Huang he once was. Under the gentle roasting of the crystal lotus heart fire, the demonic spot gradually faded away. In just over 2 hours, the black toxin was completely refined, replaced by a substantial surge of vigorous Dou Qi. Feeling the purity of this Dou Qi, satisfaction graced Xiao Yan's features. He estimated that once fully refined, his strength would leap to that of a 3-star Dou Zun. Pleased with the enhanced Dou Qi within him, Xiao Yan mused, the effects of this surpass even some 7th-tier pills. That old bastard did give him the good gift. Another strand of black lines emerged, and after a night of refinement, Xiao Yan reached the mid-stage of a 1-star Dou Zun, while the demonic spot shrunk slightly. With his current strength, the demonic spot posed little threat, instead serving as his mobile Dou Qi reserve. It's time to move on, Xiao Yan muttered to himself. The Four Pavilions Assembly should be happening in a few days. The next day, bidding farewell to Jin Shi and the others, Xiao Yan swiftly set off towards the Wind Lightning Mountains where the Wind Lightning Pavilion was located. The mountains were bustling with people due to the upcoming Four Pavilions Assembly. After making minor adjustments to his appearance, Xiao Yan blended into the crowd, making his way towards Thunder Mountain. Given his known history with the Wind Lightning Pavilion, openly revealing himself could draw unwanted attention. Besides, with formidable figures like the Dou Zun of Thunder present, it was wise to keep a low profile, despite his recent breakthrough to the Dou Zun level. Xiao Yan followed the group as they continued their journey, eventually coming to a stop during their ascent up the mountain. Ahead, there were 2 stone paths leading up the mountain, each guarded by 2 elderly men. When Xiao Yan's gaze fell upon these 2 figures, his expression tightened. They were the same men who had accompanied Feng Qing'er to the Tianmu Mountains. Their strength was formidable, leaving Xiao Yan uncertain if his altered appearance would pass their scrutiny. As Xiao Yan furrowed his brow, one of the elders in red robes began explaining the entry rules. He stated that to participate in the assembly, one needed to be at least a 3-star Dou Huang, under the age of 30, and withstand his test for 5 rounds. Meeting all 3 criteria was no easy feat, causing quite a stir among the crowd. Most opted for the left path, as fulfilling any one of the conditions was challenging. Resolving to take the left path after considering his options, Xiao Yan was suddenly interrupted by Elder Hua. Wait, it seems you qualify to participate. Why not give it a try? Xiao Yan replied, I have no interest in the assembly, I'm merely here to find someone, before continuing towards the mountaintop, leaving the onlookers in disbelief. As Xiao Yan proceeded, Elder Hua's companion frowned and asked, Is there something off about this person? Elder Hua replied, I'm not sure. I only sensed a fluctuation in the surrounding fire elemental energy when he stepped onto the path. But there's something about him that feels unsettling. Perhaps it's just my imagination. As Xiao Yan made his way towards the summit, a splendid rainbow crane swiftly ascended from below, carrying Feng Qing'er. Xiao Yan couldn't help but furrow his brows, realizing he couldn't gauge Feng Qing'er's strength despite his recent breakthrough. It seemed she posed the highest threat. While Tang Ying, Wang Chen, and Mu Qingwan were formidable, none gave Xiao Yan the same sense of danger. Only Feng Qing'er remained enigmatic to him. With little fondness for Feng Qing'er, Xiao Yan couldn't help but feel a tinge of displeasure at the thought of her potentially emerging victory. Muttering to himself, Xiao Yan quickly flew towards the mountaintop. Seeing that the assembly hadn't yet begun, Xiao Yan sat cross-legged on a tree, meditating. Suddenly, a thunderous roar erupted from the clouds, followed by 4 figures descending gracefully to the plaza, where they took their seats. Among them was Fi Tian, an old acquaintance of Xiao Yan's. The figure in the center was undoubtedly the Dou Zun of Thunder. Though his silver robe lacked the imposing aura of Fi Tian and the others, Xiao Yan sensed a hint of danger emanating from him, something even Fi Tian lacked. As Xiao Yan marveled, a series of formidable auras emerged. They belonged to the Dou Zun of Yellow Spring from the Yellow Spring Pavilion and the Dou Zun of Sword from the 10,000 Sword Pavilion. Behind them stood their most outstanding disciples, Wang Chen and Tang Ying, respectively. Just as the 2 Dou Zuns took their seats, a howling wind erupted, akin to a dragon's roar. The Dou Zun of Sword chuckled and glanced towards the distant sky, remarking, "This old fellow may be the fastest, but he always arrives last." Before his words faded, a swirling green tornado appeared atop the mountain. Xiao Yan's gaze shifted abruptly, fixating on the figure within. The Dou Zun of Wind? At last, Xiao Yan beheld the longtime friend of Elder Pill, the Dou Zun of Wind. If the man was as loyal as Elder Pill claimed, then Xiao Yan had found himself a powerful ally. Amidst Xiao Yan's excitement, the Dou Zun of Wind ascended to his seat. Seeing this, the Dou Zun of Thunder and the Dou Zun of Sword smiled and gestured respectfully, acknowledging the seniority of the Dou Zun of Wind. Despite their equal status, they maintained a courteous demeanor. In response to their courtesy, the Dou Zun of Wind smiled back. However, the Dou Zun of Yellow Spring, with his cold and ruthless demeanor, paid little attention, harboring no fondness for the man. After exchanging pleasantries, the proceedings began in earnest. The assembly comprised 53 participants, including 4 disciples from each pavilion. It adopted a melee elimination format until only 8 remained. As contestants entered the arena, Mu Qingluan, Tang Ying, and Wang Chen exchanged glances before joining the fray. Shortly after, a captivating figure gracefully descended into the arena. Feng Qing'er's appearance stirred the crowd into an even greater frenzy. Observing from their seats, the 3 Dou Zuns couldn't hide their surprise. The Dou Zun of Sword chuckled. "Seems like the Dou Zun of Thunder has invested quite a bit to personally conceal her true strength. Is he trying to catch us off guard?" The Dou Zun of Thunder laughed in response. "What nonsense. Her identity is unique, so I had no choice." The Dou Zun of Wind added, "It seems the Dou Zun of Thunder is eager to reclaim the top spot among the pavilions. The Wind Lightning Pavilion's odds in this assembly are quite favorable." Hearing this, the Dou Zun of Thunder waved his hand modestly, though a hint of satisfaction gleamed in his eyes. He indeed harbored ambitions of securing the top position among the pavilions this time. Meanwhile, the Dou Zun of Yellow Spring furrowed his brow slightly. While Wang Chen was one of his most outstanding disciples in recent years, he seemed to pale in comparison to Feng Qing'er. Helpless in this regard, the Dou Zun of Yellow Spring acknowledged the limitations of his pavilion's training system compared to the others. At this moment, Xiao Yan's gaze was firmly fixed on Feng Qing'er. He always sensed a subtle yet palpable danger around her. After furrowing his brow, Xiao Yan's attention suddenly shifted, sweeping slowly across the square. Truly deserving of the Central Plains, such young and powerful Dou Huang figures. Even in the Blackhorn region, they're few and far between. Who would have thought that a mere 4 pavilions grand meeting could attract so many? Amid Xiao Yan's astonishment, he suddenly spotted a familiar figure in a corner. After a moment of bewilderment, he slapped his palm together, exclaiming, "Lin Yan? What's he doing here? But why aren't Lin Xiaoya and Lu Qing with him? They should have left together." Xiao Yan held a strong affinity for Lin Yan and his companions. They had followed him back to the Jiama Empire to confront the Yunlan sect years ago, a bond Xiao Yan hadn't forgotten. However, when Xiao Yan emerged from seclusion in the valley, they had already left the empire. It was unexpected to encounter Lin Yan here after so many years. While Xiao Yan marveled at the twist of fate, the melee of the Four Pavilions Assembly had already commenced. Tension gripped the square as only 8 contestants remained from the initial 53. However, with 4 spots virtually guaranteed for the pavilions, only 4 could emerge from the remaining 49. The intensity of the ensuing battles promised to be brutal. Since spotting Lin Yan, Xiao Yan's gaze remained fixed on him. With his keen eyesight, Xiao Yan easily discerned Lin Yan's strength as that of a 4-star Dou Huang. I remember before his seclusion, Lin Yan was barely at the Dou Huang level. It seems he's had some fortuitous encounters these years. As Xiao Yan muttered to himself, the chaos in the arena unfolded. In just 10 minutes, 10 contestants had suffered severe injuries and were eliminated. However, to Xiao Yan's surprise, Lin Yan managed to hold his ground. After observing carefully, Xiao Yan noticed some clues. Lin Yan had mastered an exceptionally marvelous footwork, almost comparable to the 3000 lightning movement. Despite the chaos, there were still 4 relatively safe zones guarded by Feng Qing'er, Mu Qingwan, Tang Ying, and Wang Chen. Anyone daring to approach faced fierce attacks immediately. When the number of contestants dwindled to around 11, an unusual calm settled over the chaotic square. These 11 eyed each other warily. Unexpectedly, Lin Yan was among them, though he was currently the weakest. Apart from Feng Qing'er's group, most were powerful 7 or 8-star Dou Huangs. Holding out as a 4-star Dou Huang until now was unprecedented in the history of the assembly. However, Lin Yan soon fell victim to a sudden attack from an 8-star Dou Huang. The ferocity of the assault forced Lin Yan to retreat rapidly. Seeing this, Xiao Yan immediately rose to his feet. He wouldn't stand idly by and watch Lin Yan perish. If it came down to life and death, he would intervene. However, the assailant seemed hesitant to deliver the fatal blow, instead gradually driving Lin Yan into Wang Chen's attack range. It was evident the 8-star Dou Huang intended to use Wang Chen to kill Lin Yan. As Lin Yan hastily retreated, he suddenly stepped into Wang Chen's attack range, and a surge of black energy shot towards his throat. Lin Yan felt his scalp tingle. After all, the disparity between him and Wang Chen was too vast. Even with his agility, he was no match. Lin Yan shouted, "Stop, I surrender." But Wang Chen responded with a cold laugh. He had a bloodthirsty nature. Once he made a move, blood was sure to flow. There was no turning back for him. However, at that moment, Lin Yan found himself powerless to evade. Just as he prepared to close his eyes and accept his fate, a forceful suction surged from behind. In an instant, he felt a warm hand patting his shoulder. Then, a voice, tinged with familiarity and resignation, sounded in his ear. "What are you doing here, getting involved in this kind of mess?"